2024 has easily been the craziest year of my life. And I never could have foreseen many of the changes happening. And, to look back at 2023, I was in a very stable place. I experienced a level of balance that I had never previously encountered, being in the best physical shape of my life, the best financial shape of my life, having a good job. It was this calm. There was this balance in a place of where I was just very comfortable in what I was doing and continuously progressing at the same time. Inevitably, life will throw at you a lot of change, a lot of opportunities. I'm here in my hometown making this video. Now I'm back for the holidays, speaking of which, happy holidays to everybody. That's one change I experienced this year, was moving out of my parents' home. That was a huge step. I had a shadow work journal that I was writing in, speaking of last year, during 2023. And I was looking through it like a few nights ago, and one of the things I saw was facing your fear. And I talked about fear and what is my biggest fear. What I mentioned was the idea of losing everything, of boom, everything's suddenly gone. Your family, your home, your job. And on a smaller level, I discussed moving out and how much that kind of petrified me and kept me away from, wanting to pursue it, because I had always grown up in this one place, in this environment, and I just didn't know how it would go if I were to call another place home. In the first week of 2024, I met somebody. We went out to the bookstore, we went out to get some food, and I didn't have that many expectations for it. I wasn't coming out here thinking, oh, this is a date. This is just an opportunity to meet somebody. And that's kind of what I'm looking at it for. I'm not trying to set the expectation for anything. And I think that really allowed me to be more real, to be kind of vague, feel more genuine and authentic, relax a little bit, not set the pressure on myself of, oh, I got to perform because this is a date. But we ended up hitting it off. I liked this person and she was into me, I could tell. Obviously, it's not like love at first sight, but early on we connected and we wanted to see each other quite frequently. Getting to know each other better, going on dates. Officially, we're like, all right, we're gonna call these dates. And by Valentine's Day, because this was in the beginning of the year, by Valentine's Day, we called it official. We're in a relationship. You know how it goes, like one of the first things that you talk about when you're in these scenarios, like, oh, have you ever dated anyone? And I hadn't before this. I had never been in a relationship. I'd never had a girlfriend. And so she's like, okay, well, have you ever, slept with anyone? And I also hadn't. So I wasn't going to lie. I told her the truth. One of the biggest things that I've gone through is in my sex journey, which I've obviously documented a lot on this channel, of, porn addiction and sexuality, confusion and identity, that you're just trying to figure it out, and confidence issues, performance anxiety. This was something that I was genuinely fearful of, which is part of the reason why I had never really pursued a relationship, even though I always wanted one. One of the things I dealt with for a long time was the ramifications of the porn addiction. For one, in the sense of the physical, dealing with issues with erectile problems. Another thing is the questioning of my own sexuality. Am I really into this? Am I gay? Am I straight? What am I? And I didn't necessarily have an answer to that question definitively, but it affected me so heavily until I ended up joining some classes, literal courses with other men who had been through similar sort of issues of, hey, I have had, a porn addiction since I was an adolescent. I've had problems, being nervous in the bedroom, and that has stifled me. It's killed my confidence. And being able to talk about it so openly and hear people's perspectives kind of made me feel a lot more grounded and aware that this is not abnormal. This is something that I'm going through personally, and hey, that's okay. That happens to, not that specifically, but these sort of issues happen to everybody. I'm not necessarily gonna go too far into that because of how personal and, vulnerable it can be, but I learned a lot about it, and I kept digging deeper into why I was struggling with these issues. And, eventually I got to a point where I was heavily improving, and I'm still heavily improving, but I'm not gonna sit up here and say that I'm over it. I don't ever want to say that. That brings with it this level of comfort and, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm all good. Let your guard down. And that's the last thing you want to do. But I was dealing with all this during the winter and spring months of 2024. And throughout the whole time, I'm thinking like, she's gonna leave me because of this issue. This is gonna be the reason why I can never establish a relationship. These are the sort of thoughts that I was having. A lot of insecurities and deep, dark shadow-like aspects that were coming to the forefront that I had to face, man. I couldn't just let them lie there. I had to confront. And you know what? I did. I did confront them. And I am still trying to overcome this, but I've come a very, very long way to the point where, like, I'm not gonna, like I said, say I'm over it, but there have been drastic improvements, and I'm very proud to say that. But throughout this time of early, February, March, obviously I was madly in love. First time I had been in a relationship, I was feeling all sorts of feelings that were foreign or unfamiliar to me that I hadn't maybe felt ever, but at least years. My girlfriend, who's still my girlfriend, is trying to finish up her last year of college, but in order to do it in 1 year instead of 2, which you'd have to do online, she'd have to finish it up in person, right? The college is a ways away, about a 5-hour drive from where we live. She asked, do you want to move in together to do that, to make it, easier? And I didn't really hesitate. I said, yeah, I'll do that. For one, I don't want to be away from her in long distance. I don't want to even envision doing that. But second, I feel like I was at a point, that was earlier this year, where it's like, hey, why not? Why not take on this challenge? So throughout the months that followed, there were other things going on as well. I had my dad's side of the family who wanted to have a get-together across the country. I'm in the US, and it was across the country from where I am. And I had never flown a plane alone before. Like I had never done something like that. And I had never, gone on a trip to this place we were going to. And I hadn't seen my dad's side of the family in 15 years, man. 15 years. I was a child, a literal 7, 8-year-old back then, man. And so naturally I was like, I don't necessarily know how this is going to go, but yeah, I'll go. Why not? Why not take on this challenge that a part of me, at least a while ago, was like, I don't know if I'm ready to do something like that. It's a way that I realized, man, I used to be fearful of getting out of my comfort zone and flying solo to a place that I had never been, or the idea of moving out. Like I said in that shadow work journal, that was always a big fear of mine. But in that trip across the country, I reconnected and got to know a little bit my dad's side of the family, it is. And it was rejuvenating, it was refreshing, it was nice to do something like that. After we came back, it was about a week away from when we were moving. I felt throughout a lot of this time very clouded mentally. I guess just all this change was very overwhelming, and I didn't really have much time to sit down and reflect and unpack a lot of it. Eventually, we move, and there's no stopping that time. There's no preventing that from taking shape. And when we moved, it was awkward for a little period of time. I was living with my girlfriend. I wasn't living with my parents or family anymore, and was in a new place, and it was very strange. I had to grow accustomed to that, but also find myself in this new place. And naturally, early on, I kind of went to some level of comfort. I had to find a habit, a level of comfort that brought me something familiar. And what that wasn't exercise or creative passions, like maybe even this. It was porn. I went back to it. I started looking back at porn and started to develop those habits that led to such an addiction. I had to kind of confront that and realize that this is not what I should be doing. But in order to do so, I had to get to the center of it and realize why. Why am I going back to porn? And again, it brought a level of familiarity and comfort for me at one point in my life, even as unhealthy and toxic as that can be. I latched onto it at a time where I felt like, I didn't have enough familiarity around me. Eventually, I had to shed that habit and look towards something more, something better, something healthier and more fulfilling. And it was, in my case, a gym membership. I started looking at that every day, looking into trying to find a job, trying to create content on TikTok, which is what I've been doing, and write in a book, in a journal every day, and set a to-do list of making sure I get this and this and this done, chores around the house, trying to live a healthy lifestyle. A lot of times habits are very unconscious things that we do throughout the day. And so it's easy to fall into a bad pattern of eating too much junk food, of drinking too much alcohol, of watching porn. It's a routine, it's a habit, and then it becomes an addiction over time. It was during the fall months I would say like the early fall, maybe even the late summer, where I was dealing with a lot of this and struggling to find myself and regain that sort of connection with who I am, and try and learn like who is Will, who am I gonna be? Am I gonna be somebody that falls back into these bad habits and in a porn addiction and doesn't live healthy or take care of himself? Or am I gonna try and be somebody who actually takes ownership, accountability of what's going on here? I think a lot of the challenges were also forgiving myself for some of these little things that I was doing, and understanding that, hey man, I've gone through a lot of change, and there's got to be some level of self-empathy that I can have, and understanding, of like why I'm in this position, how a lot of this happened. And after our move is when I got to unpack it, realize it, reflect, reconnect with myself. And I feel like it was during the sort of later fall months, or fall time, November, and now even into December, where I've gotten a job, I've established some more routines, and here I am for the holidays back in my hometown. And it feels odd in some ways that it's like so normal, but I haven't really lived here in over 5 months now. This year, to kind of summarize it all, you first week of the year, meet a girl, meet a woman, fall in love, go through all the insecurities and troubles that I've gone through sexually, and have them suddenly be brought to the forefront and have to confront them. Now we're talking about moving out of the place that I've lived, my entire life, flying on a plane solo, something I had never done. And then all these past ghosts calling again with porn and unhealthy habits that I was dealing with throughout previous points in my life. I'm incredibly fortunate for the life I've had and where I've been able to grow up. Like, this place I live is very safe and warm and comforting, and it's something that you have to be grateful for. We often forget to just acknowledge some of the growth we've had from the time in which I was an adolescent. Sure, there's a lot of natural maturation that takes place over that span of time, but there's also a lot that you have to do to grow, to recognize patterns in your life, to mature. Now, this year has been far and away the biggest change I've ever experienced. Although part of me feels like a longing for what once was at times, because it's just, this place is warm, it's comforting, it's the place I've always known, like I've been saying. But I'm also very appreciative and grateful of where life's gone, because I've learned so much and experienced so many firsts this year that it's allowed me to embrace the idea that I can adapt to change, something that I didn't always know before. It's not ever easy, but change is inevitable. Change is bound to happen in your life. It's going to happen more in my life, and it's uncomfortable, and it's sometimes unforgiving, the way you can lose something that was so common or so stable in your life. But you always kind of expect the unexpected. Life takes turns that you least anticipate, and you have to have a level of awareness towards that, and that should bring about gratitude. Tomorrow was never promised for any of us. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's good to sort of recap the year for me and make some type of project, which is something that hasn't been done much on this channel, but still, whenever Alex or myself gets the opportunity, it's always a great one, and something we try to take advantage of. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you as always if you made it this far. I appreciate you very much. And Will from Shadow Ascent signing out.